I remember the exact moment I realized how much my own energy was shaping my finances. It wasn't some big epiphany or a dramatic revelation, but rather a quiet, slow awakening that shook me to my core. For years, I had been caught in a cycle, a continuous loop of anxiety, frustration, and even resentment whenever I looked at my bank account, paid my bills, or faced a pile of unpaid invoices. Every time the due date for a utility bill rolled around, I felt my stomach tighten, my chest constrict, and that nagging voice in my head whispering, "Why does this always happen to me?" I'd sit there, wallet in hand, feeling helpless, overwhelmed, and, honestly, angry at myself for not having enough, never feeling fully at peace with money, always worried about the next crisis. And you know what? I believed that was just the way things were. That gaining financial stability was about working harder, sacrificing more, or luck somehow miraculously favoring those who deserved it. But deep down, I sensed there was something missing, something I wasn't seeing, something about how I was approaching money that kept pushing prosperity further away. It felt like I was fighting against an invisible resistance, a constant battle between what I wished for and what my reality seemed to reflect back at me. Scarcity, lack, and that unmistakable feeling of being trapped inside a cycle I couldn't escape. One day, I started paying closer attention, not just to my bank balance, but to the energy I was putting behind every payment I made. It sounds simple now, but back then, it felt revolutionary. I realized that every time I dug into my wallet with a sigh, with anger burning inside or a voice whispering, "This is never enough," I was sending a magnetic signal to the universe that I was in scarcity. I wasn't just paying bills. I was paying those bills with a heavy heart, with fear, with the weight of obligation. And it hit me hard. I wasn't just reacting to my circumstances. I was creating them, inch by inch, thought by thought, emotion by emotion. What if, instead of paying bills out of obligation and resentment, I could change my energy, reshape how I felt around the act of paying? What if there was a way to shift not just my mindset, but the very vibration I was projecting when I handled my money? I started asking myself these questions, and slowly, I began to see how deeply my internal world was dictating my external circumstances. It wasn't about fancy strategies or complex techniques at first. It was about awareness, becoming conscious of the energy I was giving to something as seemingly mundane as paying a utility bill. What if every time I reached for my wallet, I could approach it with gratitude, with openness, even with a sense of abundance? That thought changed everything. I began to see that transforming my relationship with money, especially with the obligations I used to dread, was, in fact, possible. It was about turning a moment of obligation into a moment of alignment. Instead of feeling like I was doing a chore I hated, I could see it as an act of trust, a recognition that I was in the process of creating more of what I truly wanted. And I can tell you honestly, that shift, however tiny it seemed at first, started to ripple out into my entire financial picture. I began to notice opportunities where I once saw obstacles. Doors started opening because I wasn't approaching money with fear anymore, but with a different kind of energy. A part of me still struggles with it sometimes, don't get me wrong. But now I understand that the journey isn't about pure discipline alone. It's about the energetic state we carry when we handle the affairs of our lives, especially those that feel like obligations. This is the conversation I want to have with you, to show you that your relationship with money, your mindset around paying bills, is a powerful reflection of your inner world. And I want to share something truly transformational with you today: how to begin shifting that energy, how to turn a moment of obligation into a moment of alignment, so that your flow of abundance can start to move freely again. Because the truth is, once you realize you hold the power to reframe your entire experience around money, nothing in your life needs to stay the same. You become the navigator and the creator of your financial destiny. That's the part one want to explore with you now. Imagine a moment when you approach a task like settling a financial obligation, and instead of feeling overwhelmed or burdened, you feel a sense of calm and purpose. This shift in attitude might seem subtle, but carries profound implications. When I first began to see these moments as opportunities rather than chores, everything changed. That sense of heaviness that used to accompany me whenever I handled my financial responsibilities started dissolving little by little. Suddenly, a simple act transformed into a conscious exchange, a deliberate act of aligning my intentions with my actions. Refusing to see these moments as mere transactions opens up a whole new world of possibility. It's as if you're reprogramming your subconscious to view financial responsibilities as part of the flow of abundance rather than obstacles blocking your path. For example, when I started to approach my obligations with appreciation, acknowledging how each one contributed to my growth and stability, I noticed a shift. The universe responds to gratitude, and suddenly, opportunities to create more wealth appeared where I once only saw restrictions. From this perspective, the act of settling a bill becomes an affirmation that I trust the process, that I believe in my ability to sustain prosperity. Now, consider how this attitude impacts your daily life. Are you aware of the energy you project at the moment you take action? Because, in truth, this is where the real transformation occurs. When you view financial commitments as a form of contribution, not just to someone else's productivity, but as a vital part of supporting your life, you begin to infuse those moments with a different vibration. This vibration acts like a magnet, drawing more resources back to you in a way that feels natural and effortless. The universe, after all, gravitates toward those who radiate confidence and trust. Building on this, however, it's crucial to recognize the power of intention behind each act. It's not enough to simply change your emotions momentarily. You must cultivate a consistent internal dialogue that reinforces abundance. Each act becomes a declaration. I would start each day with a ritual, sometimes just a few deep breaths paired with affirmations that reinforce my worthiness and capacity to manifest financial ease. Over time, these mental habits rewired my entire outlook, allowing abundance to flow more freely into all areas of my life. As your beliefs strengthen, the external circumstances inevitably begin to mirror that inner shift. Moreover, there's an often overlooked aspect, your overall mindset about what it means to be supported. Think about how you perceive help from others or opportunities that come your way. If you're conditioned to think that support is scarce or that abundance is reserved for a select few, those beliefs will quietly sabotage your progress. Conversely, when you adopt a mindset that the universe conspires in your favor, you start to see resources, ideas, and connections as natural extensions of your energy. This isn't about wishful thinking. It's about realigning your subconscious stories so they're aligned with the truth that you are inherently worthy of prosperity. Another vital point is to recognize that each moment of commitment to your well-being can serve as a catalyst for greater flow. Think of it like tending a garden. Every deliberate effort, watering, fertilizing, removing weeds, contributes to the overall health of your crop. But the real magic happens when you view all these actions as interconnected parts of a larger process. When you cultivate a sense of appreciation for how each piece fits into the grander scheme, you nourish your inner landscape for abundance to blossom. It's about transforming the way you see the steps involved in creating wealth, turning routine tasks into powerful demonstrations of your trust and alignment. In essence, these shifts in perception don't require monumental effort. They are tiny, daily invitations to reframe your experience. When I realized that I could choose my stance at every juncture, whether I was writing a check or scheduling a payment, I began to feel a renewed sense of control and purpose. This awareness unlocked a sense of partnership with the universe, where I became an active participant in my own prosperity. No longer was it about struggle or desperation. It became an act of honoring the abundance already available, simply waiting for me to step into alignment. Are you beginning to see how powerful your internal state truly is? Each thought, each feeling, each choice crafts your reality more than you might realize. When you shift your perception from seeing these moments as burdens to viewing them as sacred exchanges, you elevate your energy and position yourself as a magnet for more resources. Remember, what you focus on expands. So, the real challenge, yet also opportunity, is to stay conscious of the energy you dedicate to every step of your financial journey. This is where transformation begins. As I delved deeper into this process, I discovered that the emotional charge we assign to financial tasks can either anchor us in limitation or propel us toward greater abundance. It's fascinating how a simple shift in perception can turn a mundane activity into a powerful affirmation of our worth and potential. I learned to see each payment not as a burden, but as a sacred exchange, proof that I trust the right resources will flow when I honor my commitments from a place of genuine appreciation. One of the more profound realizations I experienced was recognizing how feelings of scarcity act like heavy chains that bind us further into lack. When I allowed doubt or frustration to dominate, I noticed my financial situation felt even tighter, like trying to breathe through a narrow straw. Conversely, when I cultivated inner calm and adopted a mindset rooted in abundance, I found that these moments transformed into opportunities for gratitude. For example, I started expressing thanks for the money I did have, even if it was a modest amount. This practice gradually rewired my subconscious to expect more, aligning my vibrational state with prosperity rather than deficiency. It's important to realize that shifting your emotional landscape around financial responsibilities does not require monumental effort. Instead, it demands awareness and deliberate choice. Visualize how you would feel if you believed wholeheartedly in your ability to attract what you desire. Thought alone has a tangible influence. It acts like a beacon guiding wealth toward you. Each time I approached my income and expenditure from a place of confidence, I noticed subtle signs of abundance appearing. Unexpected refunds, new opportunities, or simple signs of support from people around me. These small yet powerful confirmations reinforced my conviction that I was capable of creating more. Another aspect to explore is the way thoughts about deservingness shape our reality. Often, subconscious beliefs from childhood or societal conditioning influence how receptive we are to prosperity. For instance, if I held the conviction that money was scarce or that wealthy people were somehow unethical, I was unknowingly blocking my own progress. To counteract this, I deliberately replaced such limiting beliefs with empowering affirmations, reminding myself that I am inherently deserving of abundance because I am an expression of limitless potential. As I did this consciously, a ripple effect took place. I became more receptive to opportunities and more confident in my capacity to generate wealth. Building on that, consider how your daily routine can serve as a reflection of your attitude toward abundance. Small acts, like organizing your finances, visualizing your goals, or simply affirming your worth, become reinforcing rituals that bolster your vibration. In fact, I found that consistency in nurturing positive thoughts had a compound effect. Over time, I started noticing my actions felt more aligned with my intentions. I no longer viewed financial responsibilities as chores dictated by obligation, but as affirmations of my alignment with abundance. Every step became a conscious act of creation. Furthermore, reframing your internal dialogue about money can catalyze extraordinary change. Instead of lamenting what is lacking, I trained myself to focus on what I was actively attracting. For example, I'd shift from thinking, "I don't have enough," to "more than enough is on its way." Even if the evidence wasn't yet visible, maintaining this mental stance reinforced my belief that wealth was a natural part of my journey. This shift in focus led to a gradual release of resistance, opening space for opportunities one previously overlooked or dismissed. What's most empowering is recognizing that nurturing this new perspective can become an ongoing practice rather than a temporary phase. Overcoming deep-seated fears around money involves patience and persistence. Whenever doubts resurfaced, I would gently redirect my thoughts, reminding myself of past successes and the countless times abundance had manifested in different forms. These mental reinforcements boost resilience, transforming the process from a struggle into a dance of continual growth. I realized that patience isn't simply about waiting. It's about cultivating unwavering trust that what I desire is already on its way, and that each moment offers a fresh chance to realign. Finally, it's worth emphasizing that true abundance flows from within. When you release feelings of fear and start treating every income-related act as a celebration of worthiness, you strengthen your inner foundation. This shift becomes a vivid declaration that you are a magnet for prosperity, capable of transforming every transaction into a step closer to your dreams. Each time I practiced this, I grew more confident, more aligned, and more attuned to signs that I was manifesting a financial future that excites and inspires me. The power was always within me, hidden in my mindset, ready to be activated through conscious choice and deep conviction. Once I began to see beyond the surface, I realized that paying bills is deeply connected to a broader story I was telling myself, one rooted in my self-image and inner confidence. For years, I acted as if I had to chase after money, feeling like a perpetual outsider looking in on abundance that I somehow couldn't truly claim. But what I failed to grasp was that the act of settling accounts often reflected my core beliefs about my worthiness and capacity to attract prosperity. It wasn't simply a matter of balancing lists of numbers. It was a mirror revealing my deepest perceptions about who I believed I was. Building on this, I discovered that reframing the significance of these acts as affirmations of my inner state could produce startling shifts. Each time I approached a debt or an expense, I began asking, what kind of story am I reinforcing right now? Instead of stressing over whether I'd have enough, I started trusting that I am supported, more than enough, and that my actions align with abundance. That shift in perception didn't come from trying to fake a positive attitude, but from genuinely feeling the truth that prosperity is a reflection of my confidence, not just my bank account. As I persisted in this mindset, the act of paying took on a new rhythm, one filled with appreciation rather than resistance. Furthermore, I've come to see these transactions as opportunities to reinforce a mental blueprint that breeds abundance. Imagine your mind as a garden. What seeds are you planting? When I paid with gratitude, I planted seeds of trust and openness. When I paid out of obligation or resentment, I planted weeds of doubt and scarcity. Over time, I realized that cultivating gratitude wasn't just about feeling good. It was about actively rewriting my mental script. I started to notice how my feelings during each act could either nourish my growth or suppress it. For instance, I might have encountered a bill that seemed burdensome, but instead of allowing frustration to settle, I paused and intentionally shifted my focus. I acknowledged the result I wanted, financial ease, and envisioned it flowing effortlessly into my life. It's illuminating how much control I found in this approach. It's easy to believe that circumstances dictate our experience, yet I came to understand that our emotional response is the most powerful tool we possess. When I learned to listen carefully to my inner dialogue during payments, I identified patterns that needed rewriting. Critical voices that whispered, "This is a problem," or "I'll never catch up," lost their grip when I replaced them with stories of abundance and trust. I made a conscious decision to treat each financial act as an affirmation of growth. As I did that, I noticed my reactions becoming more peaceful, my frustration diminishing, and my mindset expanding. Another insight I gained was recognizing the importance of consistency. Inspiration can ignite a change, but sustaining it requires intentional practice. It's not enough to simply feel optimistic briefly. I committed to daily immersion in affirmations and visualizations that strengthened my sense of abundance. Like a sculptor chiseling away at a block of marble, I removed the layers of doubt and old habits, revealing the inner belief that wealth flows to me naturally. Over time, moments that once felt stressful or burdensome now became recognizable as opportunities to affirm my trust in abundance. That consistent perspective gradually rewired my subconscious, making gratitude and openness my default. Consider how this applies when facing unexpected expenses or delays. The tendency might be to panic or feel betrayed by circumstances. Yet, by cultivating a mindset rooted in inner strength and unwavering belief, I learned to see challenges as invitations to deepen my faith in my ability to create solutions. My thoughts transformed from panic to curiosity, asking, what lesson or blessing is this experience revealing? Or how can I turn this around to serve my higher good? The practice of viewing setbacks through this lens created a fertile environment for opportunities one hadn't seen before. Suddenly, what once seemed like obstacles became catalysts for growth. Proof that aligning emotionally with abundance not only attracts resources, but also expands resilience. Finally, I've come to recognize that acting from this deep inner sense of abundance naturally attracts external support. The more aligned I was in my convictions, the more opportunities started appearing in unexpected places. Someone I barely knew offered to connect me with a new client. An idea struck me during a moment of quiet reflection that led to a breakthrough project, or I received an unexpected gift or favor that reminded me of my worthiness. This wasn't coincidence. It was evidence of a powerful shift within. The external realm always responds, often in surprising ways, to the energetic or mental state we nourish inside. When I started to treat each act of payment with respect and gratitude, I was reaffirming my deservingness, and that reassurance carried an attractive vibration that drew opportunities and resources toward me. This process has shown me that transforming how I handle what once felt like burdens involves more than just changing my attitude temporarily. It's about creating a new blueprint at the core of my being, one of trust, openness, and unwavering belief that I am an active participant in my prosperity. Every moment becomes an opportunity to strengthen this truth. When I approach it this way, I am not merely settling accounts. I am consciously shaping my destiny, one energetic moment at a time. A foundational shift I made involved recognizing the true nature of my energy during moments of financial responsibility. Instead of approaching payments as a mechanical duty, I began to see them as opportunities to reinforce my inner vibration. I started noticing how subtle emotions, such as impatience, frustration, or even guilt, created ripples that affected subsequent experiences. These feelings serve like emotional filters, tinting our reality with either scarcity or abundance. When I paid with anxiety coloring my thoughts, I instinctively sent out signals of lack. Conversely, by consciously cultivating a sense of trust and calm, I sent out signals of flow and prosperity. This realization led me to examine the stories I told myself daily. If I constantly repeated ideals of being behind or feeling overwhelmed, I was scripting a future rooted in struggle. Changing that script meant deliberately choosing thoughts and feelings that aligned with effortless abundance. I began to see each expenditure as a small affirmation of my growth, a sign that I was supported in every step. I would pause before paying, take a deep breath, and reaffirm mental truths like, I am supported by endless resources, money comes to me easily, or every dollar I spend returns multiplied. These inner phrases weren't just words. They became energy signatures I emitted into my daily routine, rewiring my mental pathways step by step. Beyond mental practices, I discovered that physical gestures could act as anchors for a new energetic pattern. For example, I started associating the act of handing over money with a deliberate gesture of gratitude. Instead of the quick, almost unconscious movement I used to have, I began to slow down, make eye contact with my wallet, and visualize how my actions contributed positively to my life and others. This simple physical reframe helped me to break the automatic reactions rooted in scarcity, turning a mundane activity into a ritual of appreciation and co-creation. Changing my approach to physicality accompanied my mental shifts, which amplified the overall effect. Building upon this, I learned to integrate daily rituals that reinforced my trust in abundance. One particularly powerful practice was dedicating a few quiet moments every morning to connect with an energetic checkbox, imagining a life where my needs are effortlessly met. I would visualize myself paying bills without resistance, feeling pride in my financial discipline, and experiencing a genuine sense of freedom and security. These mental rehearsals created a mental landscape where prosperity felt natural and inevitable. When the day's inevitable obligations arose, I noticed I could handle them with a different attitude, more centered, less reactive, more aligned. Another essential insight involved the significance of emotional states during moments of expenditure. Emotions are like fuel for manifesting. They intensify or weaken your intentions. If I paid bills feeling resentful or hurried, those feelings clouded the potential for positive flow. But cultivating genuine feelings of gratitude during transactions transformed my entire energetic signature. This seemed to act like a magnet, drawing in positive feelings, resources, and even unexpected opportunities. I discovered that even a fleeting moment of gratitude could act as a powerful catalyst. Many times, I paused, acknowledged the effort behind earning or generating the money, and appreciated the opportunity to support my goals. This moment of acknowledgement created a ripple that extended well beyond the transaction, influencing my whole outlook. The impact of these internal shifts extended into how I interpreted external results. Progress often showed up subtly at first, an increase in inspired ideas, someone offering a helpful piece of advice, or a seemingly chance encounter that opened a door. Instead of dismissing these as coincidence or luck, I started attributing them to the energetic alignment I was consciously cultivating. Each reminder of support, no matter how small, reinforced the idea that prosperity is an ongoing conversation, not a sporadic event. These signs became building blocks, showing me that paying with intention and positive energy laid a foundation for consistent growth. I also learned that persistent alignment involves patience and self-compassion. It's easy to slip back into old habits when faced with setbacks or delays, but recognizing these moments as part of the process creates space for growth. When doubts arose, I practiced gentle mindfulness instead of self-criticism. I would acknowledge the emotion, thank it for revealing what still needed healing, and then shift focus back into feelings of abundance. This approach kept my momentum steady, transforming perceived failures into lessons that strengthened my confidence to keep going. Ultimately, I saw that the acts of exchange and expenditure mirror the relationship I nurture within myself. When I treat money as a positive extension of my being, worthy, flowing, and aligned, I step into a state of receptive abundance. Every action becomes a declaration that I trust my ability to attract wealth, and that trust feeds back into my reality. Over time, this integrated approach started to animate my daily life, making prosperity not just a desire, but a lived experience I could consciously create. That's when real transformation begins, inside, turning routine acts into deliberate expressions of trust, gratitude, and readiness for abundance. If I pay attention, I notice that shifting energy during financial actions isn't solely about internal feelings. It also involves understanding the subtle currents that run beneath habitual habits. For instance, I started to observe the stories I tell myself long before I even think about swiping my card or opening my wallet. Those narratives, often ingrained from childhood, shape my reactions to money more than I wanted to admit. Changing them becomes a process of untangling the threads of old conditioning, replacing them with fresh, empowering scripts that align with my desire for abundance. Building on this insight, I discovered that physical cues could serve as anchors. For example, when I paid a bill, I would take a moment to close my eyes and mentally send out a blessing, affirming that each payment is an act of trust, a statement of my deservingness. The act of blessing created a new layer of meaning, anchoring positive expectation around the transaction itself. It wasn't about superstition, but about deliberately reprogramming my subconscious pattern. Over time, these small adjustments transformed routine impulsiveness into intentional, energetically aligned choices that reinforced my capacity to attract wealth. Furthermore, I found that actively envisioning the flow of resources reshapes internal beliefs. I started to see wealth not just as something I acquire, but as a dynamic current that moves through me from source to manifestation. I imagine money as a living entity, flowing effortlessly and continuously, guided by my thoughts and feelings. When paying a bill, I visualized this flow as a radiant stream, bright, unstoppable, and abundant, passing through my life. This mental image opened space for feelings of gratitude and trust to take root, making my energetic vibrations more receptive. It's a practice that feels like stepping into a natural, ongoing exchange with the universe, no longer a one-way effort, but a joyful dance in partnership with abundance. Another perspective that profoundly shifted my approach involved the concept of stewardship versus obligation. Instead of viewing financial responsibilities as burdens, I began to see them as opportunities for conscious management. Think of a gardener tending to delicate plants. Each watering, pruning, or feeding serves a purpose in nurturing growth. Similarly, I viewed each financial duty as an act of my stewardship over my resources. This attitude fostered a sense of empowerment rather than despair. It became clear that my engagement with money was a reflection of how much respect I had for the resources I am blessed with. As I cultivated this mindset, I noticed that a sense of gratitude grew naturally, overflowing into my experience of wealth. Another essential element involved cultivating a sense of spaciousness within my mind and heart. Cluttered thoughts, worries, or fixed ideas about how wealth should appear tend to create mental blockages. I learned to carve out intentional time for calm reflection, where I could let go of frantic hustle and tune into a larger perspective. During these quiet moments, I'd breathe deeply, expanding my awareness to include the vast potential that resides beyond immediate circumstances. It's almost as if I was creating a mental clearing, a sanctuary where ideas of limitation could not intrude. This practice allowed new possibilities to emerge more freely, like a vast open sky that invites birds, clouds, and sunlight to dance in harmony. In that expansive space, I discovered that specific sensations, such as feeling a sense of relief, warmth, or even playful anticipation, foster a fertile environment for manifesting more wealth. Emotions like these act as catalysts, turning abstract desire into a palpable energy that draws resources closer. Instead of forcing the outcome, I focus on cultivating these feelings during any financial activity, whether it's paying a bill or imagining my future. It becomes a form of energetic calibration, an ongoing alignment that signals openness and readiness for greater prosperity. These feelings create a kind of energetic echo that reverberates outward, attracting circumstances that match that resonance. As I continue to experiment, I find that shifting perception around money begins with deep inner acceptance. When I stop resisting what is, I open a door to flow. Accepting the current state doesn't mean resignation, but rather acknowledging reality while holding a clear intention for what's to come. This combination of affirmation and surrender creates a powerful magnetic field, one that pulls future abundance into the present. It teaches me that action must be coupled with a belief in the possibilities, faith that my energy is enough to influence the outcome, regardless of external appearances. It's a fresh discipline, showing up with trust, tending my inner landscape, and allowing the natural order of prosperity to unfold. Reflecting on this journey so far, I recognize how every insight has been weaving together into a more intricate understanding of my own energetic blueprint. Each shift in attitude, every conscious choice to reframe my internal landscape, acts like a carefully placed stone in a riverbed, altering the flow just enough to guide it towards new channels of possibility. It's as if I've been meticulously sculpting the shape of my reality by sculpting the very thoughts and feelings that fuel my actions. The cumulative effect of these adjustments begins to ripple outward, creating currents strong enough to move obstacles and attract opportunities previously hidden in the shadows of doubt. There's an undeniable power that resides in the subtle act of aligning internal vibrations with a broader sense of possibility. It's like tuning a finely crafted instrument, where each string must be calibrated precisely for harmony to emerge. When I elevate my emotional tone, embracing gratitude, trust, and playful anticipation, I'm essentially refining the frequencies I broadcast into the world. This process of calibration gradually transforms how circumstances respond to me, turning my intentions into magnetic forces compelling manifestation. It's not about forcing outcomes, but allowing a natural synchronization to occur, syncing my inner state with the flow of abundance that's constantly circulating around us all. In this ongoing dance, the internal dialogue I choose to nurture becomes a vital choreography. Movement without a guiding rhythm can be aimless. With intention, it becomes a purposeful expression of what I wish to create. Every thought, every sensation, acts as a step in my personal choreography, some leading me closer to clarity, others stirring old patterns of resistance. Learning to become conscious of these steps, to identify when my energy is drifting into unnecessary struggle or frustration, has proved transformative. It's as if I've been handed the baton in a grand performance, where each gesture of trust and appreciation sets the stage for the next act of serendipity. What's fascinating is how this internal harmony subtly influences the external environment. I've come to realize that the energy I embody during acts of exchange doesn't exist in a vacuum. It interacts with unseen currents, which then guide conditions to support my growth. Think of it as planting seeds in fertile soil. When I tend my mental and emotional garden with care, I cultivate conditions ripe for spontaneous blooms. The soil's richness depends on whether I nourish it with feelings of abundance or neglect it with scarcity-minded thoughts. As I tend to my inner landscape with patience and consistency, I notice the landscape of my life gradually shifts to reflect that care. Unexpected gifts, doors swinging open, or ideas flourishing more effortlessly than I had ever imagined. This entire process reminds me of a grand orchestration. Each act of intention and every moment of deliberate feeling is a note played with awareness. When these notes align, the harmony appears seamless, transforming what once felt like chaos into a symphony of abundance. It's like forging a new language with the subtle vibrations of my inner world, one that speaks directly to the unseen forces shaping reality. Instead of reacting blindly to external circumstances, I find myself positioning my awareness in a way that invites effortless flow. There's an elegance in this, a quiet confidence that steadies my steps even amid uncertainty, because I recognize how powerful my inner state truly is. As I observe this unfolding, I realize the importance of embracing patience and compassion for myself. Building a new relationship with money and worthiness isn't a switch I flip overnight. It's an evolving narrative that requires gentle nudges and persistent attention. Every time resistance surfaces, I gently remind myself that change is a process, an unfolding, not a sprint. This perspective infuses patience into my actions, transforming moments of doubt into opportunities for learning and reinforcement. It's as if I'm tending a delicate flame, carefully nurturing it until it burns bright and unwavering, illuminating the path ahead. Through these experiences, I feel an awakening, an understanding that transforming my inner world can reorganize the very fabric of my reality. Each insight, each emotional pivot, acts like a thread that pulls the larger tapestry of my life into a more vibrant, resonant pattern. What feels like a small adjustment, an attitude shift, a moment of gratitude, begins to ripple outward, connecting to larger currents that carry me toward a fuller, more abundant expression of myself. This ongoing process sparks excitement and anticipation because I sense that what lies ahead is already forming in the unseen, waiting patiently for me to align with it. As I reflect on this journey, I realize how deeply interconnected our inner world and outer reality truly are. Once I shifted my focus from viewing money as something to chase or manage out of obligation to recognizing it as a reflection of my energetic state, everything changed. It became clear that what I continuously fed into my consciousness, beliefs, feelings, stories, wove the fabric of my experience. Each moment I aligned my vibration with trust and gratitude was like planting a seed that longed to bloom into abundance. These seeds, nurtured consistently through mindful awareness, transformed fleeting feelings into magnetic forces that drew opportunities into my life. Tuning into this inner harmony invites a new sense of empowerment. It's easy to get caught in the illusion that external circumstances control us, yet genuine transformation reveals how powerful our inner responses really are. Instead of reacting defensively to setbacks or limitations, I learned to approach them as signals, messages urging a gentle shift in perspective. Embracing this mindset turned obstacles into allies, guiding me toward resources and solutions that had previously been obscured by doubt. What once felt like resistance became a catalyst for clarity, opening pathways I never believed possible. The realization that my emotional landscape acts as a bridge between desire and manifestation unlocked a profound sense of responsibility and possibility. Choosing to cultivate feelings of appreciation and expectation became an act of co-creation, a way of signaling readiness for greater flow. I started noticing subtle hints, unexpected support, inspired ideas, moments of serendipity that confirmed I was moving in alignment. These gentle whispers formed a mosaic of progress, each piece affirming that my internal state was shaping the way circumstances responded. Engaging in this ongoing practice strengthened my confidence that the life I long for exists as a vibrant, living energy I can meet halfway. In moments of quiet reflection, I realized that sustaining this awareness requires tenderness toward myself. Letting go of rigid control, I allowed space for ebb and flow, trusting that shifts happen at just the right time. Patience became more than a virtue. It turned into a vital part of my experience. Those times when doubts surfaced weren't signs of failure, but invitations to deepen my belief in my own worthiness. Each breath I took in that state of openness became a reminder that true abundance isn't limited or distant, but always present when I am willing to see it with fresh eyes and an open heart. Resting in this understanding fuels a persistent optimism. It enables me to hold a vision of prosperity, even amid apparent scarcity, knowing that my thoughts and feelings act as the totems guiding manifestations into reality. It becomes less about controlling and more about trusting the natural, effortless flow of life that responds to my internal vibrations. Recognizing this law as a personal compass gives me peace, an assurance that every moment offers an opportunity to realign, to reaffirm my belief in abundance, and to cultivate a sense of gratitude that magnifies my capacity to receive. In sharing this, I hope to evoke a sense of possibility within those who listen. The realization that we hold the keys to shaping our experience, the power to transform obstacles into gateways, can feel like a gentle awakening. Each day becomes a new canvas, waiting for us to paint it with colors of trust, joy, and expectation. Our stories may be filled with challenges, but they are also embroidered with countless chances to choose differently. By stepping into the awareness that our inner state acts as a magnet, we transform not just moments, but entire realities. Ultimately, what I've learned is that the most significant change begins inside, in the quiet spaces where thoughts meet feelings. When we nurture those places of alignment, we naturally attract what we desire, flowing effortlessly, expanding infinitely. The act of shifting our relationship with money from obligation to abundance becomes a powerful declaration. We are co-creators, capable of shaping every facet of our experience through our inner attitude. As I embrace this truth more fully, I realize that every breath, every intention, draws me closer to a life of authentic, limitless prosperity. And in that understanding, I find not just hope, but a deep, unwavering certainty, one that invites us all to live in the fullness of our most inspired dreams.